All right, in today's episode, I'm going to share a fun experiment you can try at any time in your life to instantly start shifting the success you have, the way you interpret your life, and how to start attracting what you actually want while working less and having fun while doing it. So this was a dream outcome that I've always wanted, and I want to share that with you in this episode. And stick around to the end because I'm going to share the formula that my six-figure mindset coach has taught me and who that is. Now, my name is Joey Vaillancourt. For those of you new to the channel, just a little heads up, I help mission-based brands find integrity influencers, and I structure win-win partnerships between brands and influencers. But I also love personal development. I love leveling up in my own life so I can become a better father, a better significant other to my spouse, and everything else that's going to help bring me happiness and joy while I continue building the better version of me and everything that I do. So I've spent over six figures in personal development. And you might think I'm a self-development addict or junkie. And I guess I kind of am, but there's worse addictions to have. So really, I have invested. My goal is to share those lessons I've learned through putting out money, putting out time, putting out my investment of time and money, and then bring those back to you to learn for free. I want to share as much as I can to provide an impact to others and shape a little bit of the course of your journey and your life. So I'm being very vulnerable, but I want to let you know the full story here. So I hired David Bayer, who is a self-development, he's an icon in my eyes, but he's continuing to build a following and he's blowing up. He's got a great book called A Changed Mind, and he's in the likes of like Tony Robbins, and he's a fan of Tony Robbins, and they're like the same height, and he's putting him against the ropes when it comes to self-development in my mind. I love David, and he is my private coach. So I decided to work with him back in February 2026. And it's one of the best decisions of my life. Now, one of the key things before we actually get into the lesson of the day is no matter what investment you're doing, no matter what your belief is, and you're going into something like a mentorship, a mastermind, or some sort of thing where you're putting money on the table and you're at first a little bit hesitant to do so, but then you commit to it, decide that that is the best decision of your life. Okay, if you start to think that, oh, I invested this money, it's not going to work out. Why did I do this? It might not work out. All these limiting beliefs, you're not structuring your belief system to actually buy in and absorb what you want to learn from this coach. So that's kind of like the pre-lesson to the actual lesson today is no matter what you're investing in, make sure to put everything into it and make the full commitment on it as well as in your mind. I also made the best decision of my life while I was making another best decision in terms of working with David was I was like, okay, well, maybe if I'm doing this investment, why not get sober? Now, I wasn't a fall down drunk. I wasn't the typical alcoholic, or at least the impression of what I thought an alcoholic was. But I knew that alcohol wasn't bringing me to the best version of who I wanted to become. So I decided that at that point, if I'm going to invest this large amount of money with David to work and transform my limiting beliefs, transform my life, have more happiness, have more success, alcohol wasn't going to continue to play a part in my life, at least for this year, and now part of a recovery program, at least for this day. So I've been doing both, and it's been transformational across the board. And I really want to just be vulnerable and let you know that, because it's not about getting sober in this episode, but it's about whatever you're going to do as far as your next step. Consider what else is holding you back in addition to what you're looking to achieve with either the coach, the mindset person, or the mastermind you're joining. Now, the first step that I want to share with you is how to change everything while changing nothing. And it sounds kind of stupid at first. You're like, what do you mean? How can I change everything while changing nothing? But that's the point of it. If I could tell you today that I can give you a pair of glasses, you put on the glasses for the first time. And for those of you who have eyesight issues, you know how powerful it is when you get the actual experience wearing glasses for the first time. You can see things. You can see the chalkboard. I remember being in high school, and I had to borrow my friend's glasses sometimes to see the actual notes on the whiteboard or the chalkboard. And I realized, oh, I need glasses. And if I had glasses, I could see better. And all of a sudden, my grades went from D's to A's within a couple months. And thank you, parents, for getting my eyes checked. But jokes aside, it's the power of interpretation. So how you're perceiving the world, how you're looking at things happening to you or for you. And of course, Jocko Willink has a great book called Extreme Ownership, and it very much applies the same principles here. It's whatever's happening in your life is how you interpret it and how you accept ownership or responsibility for it. So even if it's not your fault, you have to accept that it's your responsibility on how you deal with this. And this was like a profound shift for me, just understanding that no matter what was happening in my life, it could be a victim mentality or it could be a setup. There could be a gift. There could be something in it that's perfectly positioning me for the next thing in my life and bringing me to more happiness. And I look back on my life sometimes and I look at all the things that previously I resented, mistakes I've made, things I've done, things I was ashamed of. Now I look at it as, well, I accept responsibility in those things, and I've made peace with a lot of those aspects of my character or things that have happened to me that are all happening for me. Now, there are things that I still haven't made full peace with because I'm still on the journey like you. Death in families, death of lost ones, spouses leaving you. There's things that take time. It's not just about like, oh, I'm going to find the gift in somebody passing away today. That's not the case. But the majority of things I was experiencing weren't that big of problems. And I was approaching them as if they're the biggest problems in the world. So I had to shift from a victim mentality to just, this is life. This is how we experience things. What can I learn from it? And how is it perfectly positioning me for the next thing in my life? So the power of interpretation is very profound if you're willing to accept that. Next, what are you experiencing today? So what is it in your life? It could be anything. Pick something that you don't like. For me, I was working too hard. I wasn't enjoying things anymore, and I didn't have enough time. While I was trying to build a business, I didn't have enough time for my family. While I was spending time with my family, I wasn't earning more money, which is, in turn, building bigger businesses. So I was experiencing this like vicious cycle of like, I just don't enjoy this stuff. I'm supposed to be enjoying making more money, but I wasn't, even though I was making more money than I ever had before. I had a great family, but yet I resented the family when I had to get more work done. So I identified that I was experiencing these things. Then the third thing was, okay, well, what do I want? Why am I working harder? Why am I sacrificing time with family? Why do I want more money? So it was, for me, well, more money equals more time with family, more success. I want more joy in my life. Those are the things that I wanted. By working the way I'd previously been working through my limiting beliefs, in terms of I had to work harder to make more money, I had to sacrifice family, I wasn't actually ever going to achieve the outcome that I wanted to produce. So then the fun part, okay, we play the opposites game. Now, I'm a big Seinfeld buff. I used to watch, every single episode. I still do to this day. It's like my guilty pleasure because I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. But there's a great episode with George Costanza where he discovers that if he does the opposite of everything that he's currently doing, then he starts to see success. So he starts literally doing the opposite. Instead of like not talking to a girl, he goes straight up to them, tells the girl that he lives with his parents, he's unemployed, and he's bald. And all of a sudden he gets the girl's number. So I don't know if it's that easy, but it just, at the time it was funny, but then actually implemented this exercise in my life. Now it's not as simple as that, but it does kind of relate. So here's what we're talking about. If to this point, you've been working harder and you've been trying to make more money, but you're never getting to the success level you want to get to, is it working? It might have gotten you to the point you are. So this is where it gets harder to accept that maybe you shouldn't continue on this same road. And this is the part that's really challenging. You have to be able to let go of that. It got you here. It's not going to get you to the next step. And this comes with age. This comes with wisdom. This comes with experience. So depending on your starting point, where you're at today, you might accept this, you might not. It's okay. Find your own way. Find your own person you resonate with and follow through. I was listening to guys telling me to get up at like 5 a.m., grind harder, make more money, be more successful, sacrifice things. You don't have to be happy. Well, I was doing that and I wasn't happy. I was grinding harder. I didn't like the outcome. I didn't like who I was becoming. So I started to align differently with different people. So it's really important to understand that. But the opposite game comes down to a framework. And the framework's called the decision matrix. Now, this is David Bayer's methodology. I'm just borrowing from what he's teaching me, and I'm imparting it to you to hopefully use in your own life. What it comes down to is make a decision matrix. So the decision matrix that I made, we started with, I have to work harder, I have to work longer, I have to sacrifice more in order to achieve more money, more success, and more financial freedom, and more time freedom. Okay, well, that's not working, and you feel like crap when you do that. So what would be a form of the opposite? This is where you have to let go a little bit, play devil's advocate, and have fun with it. And at first you're like, well, yeah, of course it's easy just to say I'm not going to work anymore. And that's not the case. But it took us an hour to develop this framework. And it's really simple once I had it, but it took a long time to get there together in terms of how we work through it and letting go of my limiting beliefs. And then it takes time to actually implement. My final result and the affirmation that I have today that I've been working on for the past 6 months has been the best way to produce the result is to spend less time on it from a relaxed state. Operating from relaxation produces efficiencies. That's the new belief that I have. So from now on, here's the steps that I do. I repeat this exercise daily. Literally, I write down what's the limiting belief that I'm thinking of today. Well, today I've got a lot to do. I should work a little bit longer on it. Okay, well now let's think about the new belief. The best way to produce the result is spend less time on it from a relaxed state. When has there been a time in your life that has occurred? And if you don't have any examples, you can borrow from someone else's life. Think about the people that are just naturally lucky, or you consider to be lucky or successful. Start to think about those experiences either from their eyes, or if you've had an experience in your life when it was just easy. Maybe you had a marketing campaign go live. Maybe you got a job and you didn't even try to do it. Maybe you got the person of your dreams and you weren't really trying, or you're like playing baseball or something happened that you produced the result without a lot of output. Start to list all the evidence that you have of that new belief. And what happens, the more you do this daily, the more you start to accumulate and you start to trigger the reticular activating system to pick up these coincidences in your life and to see it more. And that's really the first power of that. So you're going to find the proof in your life and in others. And then once you have your affirmation, once you have that belief that you've articulated either with a coach or through working through David's work on the limiting belief and the decision matrix, then you're going to start to listen to that affirmation. And what I do easily is just, I pick up my phone and I record it, a voice note. I also have it as a memo and I read it a couple times a day. In the morning, I listen to an affirmation recording of not just that limiting belief, but a few other positive beliefs that I want to continue to engage with and listen to. I'll also read it out loud because there's different ways to activate, the fourth dimension or the areas of your mind that you're trying to evoke either through reading, listening, or, watching something. And I do that daily. I also practice that no matter what. Now, I don't always do this. I'm not perfect. I don't ever expect to be perfect. There is no perfect. But ultimately, when I feel like the day is done, I've done enough, but then there's that little voice. It's like, you should do more. Do a little bit more, just get a little bit ahead. I ignore that selectively because I believe a new belief. I'm going to say, I've done enough for today. The only way to produce a result is spend less time on it. I'm going to step away from the problem. I'm going to now let time and space take its opportunity to come into my life to produce outcomes that I wasn't previously producing. That's not to say you're not going to still do work. You're still going to work. There's going to be seasons where you're going to be doing a little bit more work, to get an outcome that you want, but it can't be your entire life. You can't have your foot on the throttle or the pedal all the way down all the time. You're going to burn out. And burnout's another cliche. It's like, we all burn out, but we don't have to, okay? Trust me. And so this comes back to nothing changed in my life, but everything changed. So while I'm producing the result that I want now, whether it's slower, faster, it doesn't matter. It's how I'm interpreting it. So you're going to practice this. It's basically self-discipline. It's like when you don't want to go work out, but you work out anyways because it's going to have an effect. You're going to start to practice whatever the positive, the new belief is in your life, even if it doesn't feel normal. Nothing really feels normal at the beginning of a new habit or a new discipline. Like, again, going back to working out, it doesn't feel normal. You're kind of sore in the beginning. But over time, doing it more often, you get used to it. All of a sudden, it becomes normal for you. And then magic happens. Things start feeling better. You start, getting smarter with your time because you're having to spend less time on it. The other thing that I'm doing a lot of is I'm spending time in states of things that previously I didn't have. So for a long time, I wanted a family. Well, I'm going to spend time with my family because that's a positive frequency. That's something I've wanted for a long time, and now I have it. So why not go spend in that moment with my family in a gratitude state? And then I start to trigger the more positive state of mind. So that when I return back to whatever issue I'm having or something I have to solve, whether it's a problem or, a new business idea, new things emerge. Coincidences start to manifest through that process. So by spending time in the states of places or things or objects that previously you wanted to acquire, you didn't have them, now you have them, go spend time in that zone and then come back to the other zone. You're going to come back with new ideas, new perspectives, and just transformational things that are going to start to occur in your life. This is one little exercise that you can do. There's so many more out there. Again, David Bayer is really the brains behind this, so I'm not taking credit for this, but I'm sharing with you in a different voice at a different time that hopefully resonates with you, and you start to make a positive change in your life. The steps are really simple. Identify what you've been doing to produce a result that you don't like, in terms of, I don't like grinding harder, I don't like being separated from my family, or just doing too much and feeling overwhelmed. Okay, what is it do you want to produce? Identify that, make the decision that it's possible, and then start to do the opposites game. Do the limiting belief or the decision matrix. Do the limiting belief on the one hand side. On the other side, what's a form of the opposite? And then start to do more of that opposite belief, and you'll start to attract more of what you want in a better state of mind. All right, so we went through quite a bit in this episode. Some of this might sound a little woo. It's not woo, it works. The key is consistency. The key is practicing this daily and developing a discipline so that it starts to take effect. This doesn't just happen overnight. Just like a workout, like I go back to so oftentimes because it's so easy to kind of visualize, the growth of muscles, the feeling we have when we work out and how it gets easier over time. You want to continue to practice this daily. That's what I've been doing. And I can tell you over the past 7 months of doing this, it does get easier and you start to notice more of the positive states of mind versus focusing on the limiting belief. And do your decision matrix daily. So again, decide what is it in that day that feels negative or just not going to produce a result you want. What's a form of the opposite of that? And then find all the evidence you can to support that new belief. Again, whether it's through something that's happened in your life or something that's happened in someone else's life that maybe it seems like it's always easy for that person. Continue to do this. You'll start to feel better and you'll start to enjoy the journey while you're going through it instead of looking at what's the outcome. And if I get to that point, maybe then I'll enjoy the journey. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, just show a bit of love. It's the currency of social media these days. Like, subscribe, comment, and drop a comment if something else is helping you or if you listen to David's work or something in this video resonated with you. And we'll see you on the next episode.